So, hey Capricorn, my name is Chris, and this is your beautiful reading for whenever you freaking find it in 2026. So whenever you find it, there's something in it for you. Check out your sun, moon, and rising if you want the full picture. Let's just see what comes up. Okay, two cards kind of jump out. Ooh, the devil. Okay, the devil, Capricorn, that is Capricorn energy. No, fear not. Let's just see. But the devil is always the trickster spirit trying to test something unintegrated, maybe. 10 of Pentacles and the King of Wands seems pretty good. Let's just see what comes up as a context for the devil. So let's not freak out just because that is here. The Empress and the Moon card seems to be the antidote to the devil. So the devil is always playing you on something that is unintegrated, right? So whenever you shove something down into your subconsciousness that you don't want to deal with, you're kind of negating an aspect of yourself. And that aspect doesn't want to be down there in your subconsciousness, right? And it doesn't want to live in a shadow corner in your subconsciousness, right? So it wants to come up. So it takes constant energy to keep it down there. There's always a little background process in the back of your mind that is dealing with whatever you don't want to deal with to keep it down there. So when the devil comes along, the devil is this energy that is pretty much playing you on that, disintegrated, unintegrated, negated aspect of yourself. Could be shame, could be fear, could be guilt, right? Shame, guilt, fear, usually. And then this antagonistic, narcissistic, devilish energy comes along and pokes a little bit, right? So if you're gay, for example, are you okay with that? Can you say this? Can you stand up for that? Can you just be yourself unapologetically? Or do you secretly feel ashamed about it? And the devil is the energy that kind of pokes you a little, makes a little remark, makes a little this and that, right? Nothing direct necessarily. The devil is basically playing you, manipulating you on your insecurities, and whatever you shove down into your subconsciousness, right? Shame, guilt, fear, right? This is his realm. This is actually the toxic female principle, but usually depicted in our upside down world as a male figure. But the antagonistic person, these people are in chains, and they are in chains because they are enslaved by their own unintegrated aspects. So fear, guilt, shame. And whenever you are in that frequency, first of all, you constantly need energy to keep it in check, right? To deal with it or to not deal with it, actually. To keep it down there in your subconsciousness. This is distracting you. This is getting away from your focus. Instead of focusing on creation, you're focusing on suppressing something. And the devil comes along and is testing you. Have you overcome this? Can you love yourself? Can you respect yourself? Can you just be who you are unapologetically? Integrity, authenticity is all about owning yourself, respecting yourself, loving yourself wholeheartedly, all of it, even the shadow parts, right? Even the things that you're not very proud of. Maybe you are even ashamed of them. But you know what? We're human beings who make mistakes. And can you love yourself nonetheless as you are, as an imperfect human being, right? And this devilish energy is testing you, making some stupid remarks about maybe being gay or being trans or being bisexual or being, I don't know, black or maybe even white or maybe yellow or whatever. It's always something, and it's always something that we're insecure about. And this energy is really good in sniffing that out and poking a little bit. So they are trying to trigger us, and then they want a reaction. And the reaction is always involuntarily. So if you react to something So you trigger and there's an instant reaction. And that makes you easier to be manipulated, right? But if you cultivate mindfulness, and I've seen this is not, I wouldn't worry about this. We need a little bit more context. But there is inner mastership. There's the Empress, all four queens rolled into one, internal mastership. And there's the moon card, which is your subconscious energy, right? So you show up here very super mature in the sense that you have integrated your shadow aspect, that you truly love yourself, that you rule yourself, that you can shrug your shoulders if somebody makes a gay joke or whatever, or if somebody, you know, how it works, right? Thousands of examples, you probably lived through all of them, like most of us, right? The world is full of narcissists, they're full of toxic people, full of antagonistic people, and they're always tempting us and testing us and manipulating us on our insecurities. But this frequency, you know, you can create a mindful gap between the trigger and the reaction. So you're not just, you know, instantly reacting to something. You can take a step back. You get triggered, but you're not ashamed of yourself. You're not afraid of yourself. You're not hiding yourself, right? You just love yourself unapologetically. You fully integrated, showing up as internal mastership, which is the Empress, emphasized here with the subconscious frequency of the moon card. So you know yourself, know thyself. That's inscripted in the Apollon temple, actually. Know thyself. That's very powerful, to know yourself, to not be ashamed of yourself. And I mean, if you killed somebody, you should be ashamed of yourself, right? So shame has its function. But if you are ashamed about who you are, you know, you have a right to be here. You're a divine creature of this universe and you have a divine right to be here. So no need for that. And always remind yourself, as somebody trying to trigger you, if somebody trying to manipulate you, usually through guilt, fear, shame, and it's very important to get that, understand that. You're no longer instantly reacting, you're responding to it. If you decide to give them a response, right? Maybe you just decide not to respond and just shrug your shoulder and do your thing. You know, if somebody talks to you on the checkout, for example, and, you know, create some sort of drama scene, I wouldn't even talk to a person like that, right? Don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, don't personalize. That's how you deal with it. But this is a conscious, mindful decision, and you need to cultivate some sort of mindfulness to get to that point where you can say, oh, I'm not lashing out when I get triggered. I'm not constantly reacting. Because if you're constantly reacting to stuff, you manipulate it. I can literally push a button and you react to it. But if you can be mindful, if you can create that gap of, you know, just a second to think, do I want to deal with that, right? How do I want to deal with that? Does that deserve my attention or an answer? I mean, you know, you don't have to justify yourself, defend yourself, explain yourself. As long as you're not bothering other people, right? You're just doing your thing, and that is okay. That doesn't need to be explained or defended. There's the Strength card. That's exactly the frequency. There's the 10 of Wands here. Strength card is exactly that frequency where you're not arguing with stuff, where you're not taking the bait of the narcissist. You're not, you know, if somebody tests you, choose some sort of shady thing, you know, you just, that's their thing. You don't need to internalize it. You don't need to take the bait in the sense that you fight it, because everything that you fight, you give power and attention to. And a lot of these things are just not worth your attention. So to make that conscious decision not to engage with this, that's what this is all about. there's the 9 of Pentacles. You got the 9 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles, and you got the King of Swords, which is the King of Discernment. So it's fantastic, really. So you're getting there, you're wrapping something up, and I feel like you're wrapping it, you're showing up here as, I mean, that's just give you that. Maybe you are not really seeing this because I talked so much about the devil, but have a look, right? That is not a bad reading, Capricorn. And whatever you're dealing with right now, it feels like you're moving on from this. You're wrapping something up. Maybe there's an old chapter where you had to deal with toxic people, where you had to entertain some BS that was kind of unavoidable, but you're totally moving on from this, and you're just, I feel like you're developing some sort of immunity, and the best way to develop immunity to narcissism is to become an authentic person, not to become a perfect person. It's not about perfection. You're still making mistakes, right? You still, do stupid things, right? And sometimes you just fuck up, right? But you can own that. And it's not like, nobody can trigger you. Nobody can shame you. Nobody can guilt trip you. Nobody can point out your insecure, and you did this and that, and you watched this nasty porn 10 years ago. Fuck you, right? Fuck you. And to say that, to be able to say that, that is the Empress, right? Owning yourself. There's subconscious frequency with the Moon card, goes in the same frequency. But it's not just subconsciousness, it's not just your feeling. The King of Discernment, the Butterfly King, King of Swords is here. King of Wands, you know your fire aspect, you know your passion, you know your sexuality, you know yourself, right? And again, showing up in this male version, King of Swords, King of Wands, all 4 queens rolled into one with the Empress. You're in your power, you're in your self-awareness, and you're not taking the bait of the narcissist, right? You are in the Strengths card, and the Strengths card, this lady is not wrestling the lion, she's taming the lion, and the lion is her own inner impulse to react, to lash out, to get angry, to take the bait, to, get triggered. The King of Swords is not getting triggered. The King of Swords has all of his fire, all of his passion, all of his anger, all of his rage, all of his frustration, right? Shame, guilt, fear as well, under control, right? He's not reacting. If he chooses, then he's responding, but not reacting. And to know how it works, to know how the narcissist, this devilish energy here is trying to manipulate us, it's explainable, you can understand that. There's the King of Swords, and act accordingly, not taking the bait of the narcissist, not explaining yourself all the time. You have a divine right to be here, and if your decisions stand for themselves, right? You don't need to justify yourself. And then there's the 9 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles, some low-hanging fruit. Things are getting much easier here with the 9 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles. You're immersing yourself in whatever you want to create. You know what you want to create. It's not so much about outer form, but inner conviction or inner frequency. Maybe it's much more about peace, happiness, right? Slow mornings, good people. Much more important, to have that than to have the big paying job or the whatever label, coming from your job, coming from your career, and this and that. You're so much more and so much. You don't need to justify yourself, prove yourself. And the devil is always asking, who do you think you are, right? And you can always say, I'm a divine, humble, but divine creature of this universe, and I have every freaking right to be here, so F you. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right path. You did your homework. There is so much inner mastery. There's so much wisdom here. What I always recommend, breathwork, right? If you're dealing with negative energy, if you're dealing with toxic people, which at this time in this world is almost unavoidable, right? So you get to, they are in this world, right? And they're running amok wherever you look. So breathwork, 10 seconds in, 20 seconds out. I don't know, whatever you can do comfortably, 7 seconds in, 14 seconds out. But the out breath should always be 2 times that of the in breath. So you do that every day. Do that 5 minutes if you've never done it. Combine that with meditation. Just sitting there and shutting the F up. Standing yourself, being with yourself. That's a good test. If you do this half an hour, that's a good test. If there's something unsettled down there in your consciousness. Because if there's something unsettled down there, unintegrated in your subconsciousness, right? And you sit there for half an hour just shutting up and breathing, it will let you know that it's there. So meditation is basically you checking up on your subconsciousness. Is there anything down there that I need to deal with, that I need to, integrate, reintegrate, that I need to solve, that I need to work with? If there's something down there and you meditate for half an hour, it will let you know. And if you can do meditation for half an hour and you just, it feels so good, right? That's a good confirmation that you did your homework. And I see you doing this, and if you've never done it, start doing it. It's like a workout for your consciousness, not for your brain, but for your entire consciousness, which is much more than the intellect. This is all 4 elements, basically, your feelings, your passions, your mind, your intellectual mind, but also your physical body, right? All that comes together and much more. And to keep the gates open, right? And the gates to your subconsciousness are really the gates to higher consciousness and the Akashi Chronics, whatever, right? All that jazz. Maybe the devil is in looking into the past and crying about spilled milk. Maybe the devil is in reminding yourself what you have lost, what you've been through to get here. There's so much inner mastership. You don't get inner mastership, just like that. You can't order that in the mail or at Amazon or whatever. This is earned, but there was a poison aspect here, a toxic aspect that you had to get rid of, and the universe kicked off a few cups. But there are 2 cups still standing. Concentrate on what you've got. What's left is enough. Manifestation with the magician. Let's just do a few. So there's a death card here involved. You're leaving something behind that was very, very toxic. There's the devil again. There's the devil again. Yeah, you're leaving behind something very toxic, that's for sure. And I feel like you're wrapping something up. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's a career, maybe it's a relationship, I don't know. But it's done, right? There's the 10 of Wands again. Look at that. There's the 7. There's a lot going on here. But you know what? Focus on what you want to create. And what you want to create here with the magician, that's the big question. What do you want to create? What is the most important? What is your why? Why are you doing all that? How do you want to live? It's not so much about job titles and finances, but how do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning? Good, hopefully. Never argue with a fool. Your anger reveals your attachment. That's Krishna. Your anger reveals your attachment. Meditate, meditate, meditate. That's for sure. Winston Churchill. You have enemies? Good. it means you stood up for something sometime in your life. Maybe you have enemies. Do you focus on that? Do you give that energy? Or do you make joyful creation and making the best out of whatever you have going for yourself? That should be the focus. And how it's in, I'm really happy. It's a big one. What matters is the countless small deeds of unknown people who lay the basis for the significant events that enter history. They are the ones who have done things in the past, and they are the ones who have to do it in the future. And I might add, they are the ones who have to do it right now. And thankfully, there are obviously a few people who are doing that. Thank you so much, right? Maybe you're one of them. And maybe that's why you have a few enemies, right? But, you know, not doing what is right and just and decent just because there are a few toxic people who don't like that, that would be giving up. So, you know, don't be angry about that. The world has always been like that, right? There will always and have always been toxic, narcissistic, antagonistic people. Bitching about it will not change it. Just make sure that they are not poisoning your inner frequency. You love yourself, you respect yourself, and you act accordingly, and you treat people right, and you're not behaving like the toxic people. You truly deserve your own love. By all means, do love yourself, be yourself a friend. And I totally see you doing that. But there is a lot of toxicity in 2026 roaming around. You got Manifestation, Blue Angel Oracle deck. That's big with the 10 and the 9 of Pentacles. So you're manifesting something, you're focusing on, you're working on something, and that is totally in alignment with yourself. And focus on that. And all the naysayers and all the who do you think you are people, you don't defend, you don't explain, you don't engage, you don't personalize. Just let them be. Don't even be angry about them. You just do. You focus all of your energy on what you want to create and not what you want to fight. You're not fighting against windmills. You're creating what you want. Because if you fight something, you give it energy. That's very important to understand. Wolf Spirit, it's time to turn your knowledge into wisdom. And yeah, you're doing it. I see you totally doing it. Capricorn, that's a fantastic reading. Just don't take the bait of any freaking narcissist in your life. You're moving on from this. You already did probably 2 times the devil here in the past. So, there is darkness here, right? But there's the Death card. There's 2 times the 10 of Wands, which is finishing, closure. Heavy closure, you know, maybe you left something behind that no longer serves you. Maybe you had to give something up, but it's a relationship or whatever. But you're moving on from this and you're not arguing with that. You're just accepting it. And there's so much beautiful stuff here. 9 and 10 of Pentacles and the Manifestation card from the Blue Angel Oracle deck, which is all about pretty much this combination of the 9 and 10 of Pentacles. You're immersing yourself in your own creation. I think everything you need to be happy, to be yourself, and to make something out of it is already there. Just don't fight old battles. That's all. And Capricorn has sometimes you have a hang or a tendency to do that, so don't. And that's all I got. Now I shut it up. And share, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think about it. And check out the yearly reading, check out the summer 2026 reading. Seems to be really good summer, actually, I can tell you that. And yeah, if you want the full picture, sun, moon, and rising, but now I'm shutting really up. Now, but I see you soon. Ciao.